All right, tomorrow's test is 9495. You guys will not have a calculator. Obviously, if you have a calculator, you can find the tangents very easily. And since we're giving you the unit circle and everything, we're giving you all the information that you need. So you guys are not going to have a calculator. There's no numbers or anything that you guys can't handle. Just be careful. Some of you, when you get your quizzes back, you'll see some of you put like -2 squared. You did this, -2 squared, and you told me the answer was -4. And that's the point that you plotted. Guys, if you plug in -2 and you square it, what is your answer? +4. So just be careful with stuff like that. But you're going to have 2 questions from 9.4 that say it's the exact same wording that your quiz was. Graph the parametric showing the orientation, meaning where does it start, where does it end, what do the arrows look like? And then to eliminate the parameter, which means get rid of what? Gets rid of the t. So this is a question from one of the versions of the quiz where a lot of people made the same mistakes. That's why I wanted to go over it. First of all, guys, do you see here how you are given the values to plug in? Does everyone see that? Some of you completely ignored that and just did your own. All right. Please plug in what I tell you to plug in. So what we need to do is we're going to do our little column here, X, Y. Some of you took a lot of room. You put it on the back just to make sure you didn't make mistakes. That's fine. That's totally fine. If you want to do it in your head, okay, fine. But I need to see what you guys are doing. So -1, 0, 1, 2, 3, and 4. Yeah? So in the X equation, one thing I do want to bring to your attention too. I think it was Jeremy who did that. I'm not sure. But in one of the versions, I put the Y equation first. Did you write me a little note? He wrote me a little note that said, not cool, but just pay attention. If the X is first, then just pay attention. That's all I'm trying to get you to do is pay. I almost got you. So pay attention. So I'm going to plug in -1 for t in the X equation. So I have -1 plus 9. What does that become? 1 plus 9, which is 10. Does everybody see that? Now on the bottom, I say 5 times -1 squared minus 5. What is -1 squared? Times 5. And 5 minus 5 is 0. Okay, so now we plug in 0. So I have -0 plus 9 gives me 9. And then I have 5 times 0 squared minus 5 gives me -5. Good. All right, so plug in 1. -1 plus 9 is what kind of 8? Positive, good. And then I have 5 times 1 squared minus 5 gives me 0. Thank you. So now plug in 2. -2 plus 9 gives me 7, right? 5 times 2 squared minus 5. Well, 2 squared is, what is it? 4. 4 times 5 is 20. 20 minus 5 is 15. Okay, good. Now 3. -3 plus 9 is 6. So 5 times 3 squared minus 5. What's 3 squared? Times 5 is, minus 5 is 40. Good. And then 4. So -4 plus 9 is -5. And then 5 times 4 squared minus 5. What's 4 squared? Oh, it's positive. I'm sorry, yeah. So 4 squared is 16 times 5 is 80 minus 5 is 75. Okay, so some of you drew out every single tick mark. Perfectly fine. I'm not this is what I'm looking for mathematically to make sure you guys have the numbers correct. Now, if you go by 5s or something like that on your graph, that's perfectly fine. I understand that 75 is a difficult point to graph. But I'm just going to go by 5. So 5, 10, 15. So -5, -10, -15, -20, so on. You guys with me? 5, 10, 15. So if I'm going to plot my first point at 10, 0, I'm right here on the axis, correct? 9, -5, so all the way here, and then there-ish. 8, 0. Where am I again? If I go 8, 0, where do I end up? I'm at the axis again, correct? So then 7, 15, I'm up here. Do you guys see the general shape of this graph? Do you see how it's looking like this? That is what I'm looking for. Where do we start? Where do we stop? A lot of you wrote, yes. Sure. A lot of you wrote, hey, start here, end here, which is perfectly fine. But what am I missing with what I have graphed? I have everything right except for what? I need the arrows. What direction are we going in? You have to show me the arrows, the orientation. Questions? Anybody have any questions? All right, you're going to have 2 of those. You're also going to have, it's going to be a 2-part question. So the first one is graph it, what we just did, and the second one is eliminate. So I'm going to do them both ways because some of you did this both ways. Some of you went one way, some of you went the other, which is perfectly fine. I told you that. All right, first of all, I'm going to take my first equation, x equals, and I'm going to get it t equals. So I'm going to subtract 9 from both sides. You guys agree? So x minus 9 equals negative t, and then I do what? Divide by negative 1. So this becomes t equals negative x plus 9. Does everyone understand that? Yes? So now I'm going to take this, and I'm going to plug it in right there. So I have y equals 5 times negative x plus 9 squared minus 5. Questions? Now here's where a lot of you, the wheels fell off. I had several of you where I had to cross it off and take points off and say exponents first. Several of you distributed the 5 first. In this order of operations, guys, what do you have to do to simplify? You got to FOIL first. You have to FOIL first. This is 5 times negative x plus 9 times negative x plus 9, and then minus 5 out here. You have to FOIL first. So if you go through this, negative x times negative x is x squared. Negative x times 5, oh, that's a 9, my bad. Negative x times 9 is negative 9x, right? Plus another negative 9x gives me what? Minus 18x, and then 9 and 9 is 81, and then minus 5. And then now what would we do? Distribute. So I have 5x squared. What's 18 times, negative 18 times 5? What is it? Come on, guys. 18 times 5. Okay, so minus 90x plus, what's 81 times 5? 405. And then what happens here? Minus 5. So this would be y equals 5x squared minus 90x plus 400. A lot of you lost 4 or 5 points because you distributed the 5 first. That's algebraically not correct. Now, if you went the other way, if you said, well, wait a second, I wanted to take x equals negative t plus 9 and y equals 5t squared minus 5, and you wanted to solve your y equation for t, you could do that. What would you do to both sides? You'd add 5, correct? So y plus 5 equals 5t squared. Then what? Divide by 5, fine. So t squared equals y plus 5 divided by 5. Now what? How do you get t by itself? Take the square root. Now, here's where we kind of fell apart. First of all, I had some people that canceled out the 5 in the numerator and the 5 in the denominator. Can you do that? No, that 5 is attached to the y. Guys, when you take the square root, what goes in front of your answer? So this is t equals plus or minus y plus square root of y plus 5 over 5. So when you plug this into here, what goes in front of your t? Plus or minus. Yeah, I understand there's a negative there, but it would still be plus or minus because a negative times a negative is a positive, and a positive and a negative is a negative. So there, it's not just that square root plus 9. You have to have the plus or minus. Either way you solve is fine. It does not. You don't have to only solve for x or only solve for y. You do either one. Just make sure you algebraically complete the whole thing. Questions? All right, now this says match. Obviously, I got this from WebAssign, but we're just going to work it out. You guys are going to have to, from 9-5, you're going to have to plot the polar points. We're going to have to go back and forth from polar to rectangular. And you're going to have to find other spots on the graph that would represent the same point. So let's talk about how we would graph this point, first of all. This is in polar coordinate form. So what is the -1? What is that value? It's your r. And what is 5 pi over 4? It's your theta. So what this is telling you is to find 5 pi over 4. And are you going to move 1 unit towards the angle or 1 unit away from? Why away? Because it's negative. Perfect. So look, here's your polar axis. You're going to start right here on the polar axis of 0. Where is 5 pi over 4? Okay, it's over here. And this is the line. If you want to bring a color pencil or whatever tomorrow, that's fine. Hold on. So right here. And you want to go 1 unit which way? From the pole, from 0, you're going to go 1 unit away. So it's right there. Does everybody see that? Yes or no? Okay. Does it ask you another way to... What's another way that we could name that point? 1 comma pi over 4. Perfect. Very good. Now, if you were going to convert from polar, what was it? 1 comma pi over 4? To rectangular, to x and y. Does anybody remember how to do that? X equals, good. R times the cosine of theta. Perfect. What does y equal? R times the sine of theta. Awesome. Now, this problem becomes a lot harder if you do not have the unit circle. You guys will have it. So in both cases here, what is your R value? 1. Perfect. And then how do you figure out what the sine and cosine are? From the unit circle. We got to use the pi over 4. So it's root 2 over 2 in both cases, yeah? So pi over 4 is the square root of 2 over 2, square root of 2 over 2. So the first value is your cosine, the second value is your sine. So you're going to say, okay, r times the cosine, which would be square root of 2 over 2. This is r sine, so square root of 2 over 2. So what is the xy point that coordinates with pi over 4? Did I not use the... You're right. I'm sorry. So we use the original. You used the original. That's my fault. So it'd be negative in both cases, right? Yeah. Sorry, I wasn't looking at that. So it's negative in both ones? So it would be negative square root of 2 over 2, negative square root of 2 over 2. What would the corresponding point be for pi over 4? The positive one, yeah. Yeah, you use the original one. I'm sorry, I wasn't even looking at that. Use the original one. So here, same thing. Let's plot this point and then let's convert it. Where is this point? Where do I find on my polar coordinate? What do I find first? 2 pi over 3, which happens to be right here. So I'm going to go ahead and highlight 2 pi over 3. Now, where do I go from the pole, from the middle? Do I go 2 units towards or 2 units away from? Towards. So I'm going to go 1, 2, and my point is right there. Questions? All right, now we're going to convert. So if we're going to convert, again, I know it doesn't say to convert. We're going to do it right now. I just want to practice. Thank you. So if we're going to convert here, all right, what is the ordered pair at 2 pi over 3 on the unit circle? Negative 1/2 and the square root of 3 over 2. Remind yourself that the first value is cosine, the second value is sine, right? So if I want to convert, find my x and my y. It does not ask you to do that. We're just going through the motion, so we practice everything. It's r times the cosine of theta, and it's r times the sine of theta for your x and y. In both cases, guys, what is your r value? It's 2 in both. What is the cosine of 2 pi over 3? Negative 1/2. What is the sine of 2 pi over 3? root 3 over what? 2. All right, now if you guys need to, put a little 1 underneath here so you see that you have a numerator and a denominator. How would we simplify this? What does this become? What's my point? 2 times negative 1 is negative 2 divided by 2 is what? Negative 1, comma, what? Square root of 3. It's 2 root 3 over 2. Those would cancel. You guys have any questions about how to go from polar to rectangular? All right, if the question asks you to find 3 additional points. Now, some of you were like, I don't know about the smaller and the larger. I'm not going to ask you for them in order, in numerical order of value, but they do give you the constraint that it has to be bigger and smaller than one whole, cannot be bigger or smaller than one whole circle, right? So we talked about this. My original point was 2 pi over 3, correct? Yes or no? So if I wanted to keep my R value the same, so I'm right here at this point. If I wanted to keep my R value the same, I would have to add or subtract what? One whole circle, 2 pi, either add or subtract. When you do that, guys, that's totally fine, but make sure it then falls in between the constraints. So if I take 2 pi over 3 and I add one whole circle, do you guys agree with me that would be what? What's 2 pi in terms of thirds? 6 pi over 3, okay. So 2 plus 6 is 8 pi over 3. How many times does 3 go into 8? 2 times with a little more left over, so it's bigger than 2, so that one's not going to work. What if I subtract? What if I say 2 pi over 3 minus 6 pi over 3? What does that give me? Negative 4 pi over 3. Does that one work? Is that between negative 2 pi and 0? Yes, so this is another way that I could name this point. Perfect. Now, there's other ways I can do it. Instead of keeping R the same, what could I do with my R value? I could make it negative. Now, in this case, if I make it negative, what do I add and subtract to my original? Pi. I either add or subtract pi. So I'm going to take 2 pi over 3 over here, and this is how you guys would show me this. 2 pi over 3, I'm going to add, what would 1 pi be in terms of thirds? Okay, 3 pi over 3. Well, what's 2 plus 3? 5 pi over 3. How many times does 3 go into 5? Just once? Oh, so that one works, right? So 5 pi over 3. Can I get another one? Instead of adding, what could I do? Subtract. Okay, so let's subtract. Let's say 2 pi over 3 minus 3 pi over 3. What does that give me? Negative pi over 3. Does that fit in our constraints? So look, all 4 of these are fine. All 4 of those represent the same point. From the pole, you either go towards the angle if your R is positive, away from the angle if the R is negative. Yes, ma'am?
If you were given like negative 2 instead of just the positive 2, would you start with just doing pi?
You could keep it as negative 2 and do the 2 pi.
Oh, okay.
You could do the exact same thing. Mm-hmm.
You just do the opposite
Yep.
sign for adding pi.
Correct.
Okay.
But that's how you guys would show me. So tomorrow, this is all I need to see. I just need to see you guys working through the math part of it. Like here you go, oh wait, that one's bigger. You don't have to give me an explanation or anything. You just cross it out and say, oops, that's not going to work. Does that make sense? Yep. All right, let's go again. All right, notice these are both what? Negative. So we're just going to pay attention to what they're telling us. This is my R value. This is my theta. If my theta is negative, remind me again what that means. I'm going to go the opposite direction. So the first thing I'm going to do is find out how far away 7 pi over 6 is from 0. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 spaces, right? So in order to find whatever the positive equivalent is, I'm going to start at 0 and go 14 spaces, which way? Down. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. What am I looking at? All right. Now, what is the value that they told me to do here? From the pole, which direction do they want me to go? Which direction? Towards the angle or away from it? Away from it. So I'm going to go right here. Everybody agree? All right, now if we're going to convert, I have -1 and -7 pi over 6. Well, what's another way I can call 7 pi over 6? -7 pi over 6 is the same as 5 pi over 6. So what's the ordered pair there? -√3 over 2 and 1/2. Yep. Okay, so if I'm going to convert here, my x value is r times the cosine of theta. My y value is the r times the sine of theta. So in both cases, what is my r value? -1, yeah. And then the cosine would be -√3 over 2. The sine would be +1/2. So what is the ordered pair for this? What's a negative times a negative? So √3 over 2, comma, what? -1/2. Everybody with? Okay. So now we're going to talk about starting with rectangular and going to what? Polar. Okay, everybody in here can plot a rectangular point. X is left and right, Y is up and down. So let's talk about what we need to do. There's two things we need to find. We're given an X and a Y, so we need to find R. What's that little formula we use to find R? X squared plus Y squared, the square root of X squared plus Y squared. And then we also know what is given to us is the tangent of theta, because tangent is what over what? Y over X. This one requires a tad bit more thinking, but the first thing you should always find is the R value. It's the easiest. So I'm going to say 0 squared plus -8 squared. I get 0 plus 64, yeah? Then I have the square root of 64, which equals what? 8. So your R value is 8. Now the tangent. What would your tangent, where are we looking for the tangent of theta to be what? -8 over what? 0. You're not going to find anything on the unit circle that's going to be -8 over 0, but why is that important? What is this showing you? What on the unit circle would give you a tangent that what happens when 0 is the denominator? That it's what? Undefined. So where on the unit circle, guys, could you put the y value over the x and get an undefined value? At 3 pi over 2 and pi over 2. Perfect. So now I'm not sure which one it is. I'm not sure which one I'm looking at. How do I figure out which one I should choose? What should I do? Let's plot the point. Where is 0, -8? It's down here, correct? So which one are we looking at? 3 pi over 2. So your answer here would be 8, is your R value, comma 3 pi over 2. Does that make sense? Plot the point. Give yourself an idea of what quadrant you're looking at, where on the coordinate grid you're looking. Anywhere. Just 2 more. Okay. All right. -3, -3. Well, yep. All right. So if we're going to convert here, guys, you have your x and your y, correct? So to find the r, we need to take the square root of x squared plus y squared. And then we also have tangent of theta equals y over x. So I'm going to say, okay, my r value, -3 squared plus -3 squared is the square root of 9 plus 9, so it's the square root of 18. Would we ever leave your square root like that if it could be simplified? No. I can break this down into 9 times 2, correct? So your R value, guys, is 3 root 2. Always simplify your radicals. Now, the second thing we're going to do is take the tangent. Let's find out what they gave us. They said the tangent is -3 over 3. So tangent of theta is -3 over -3. What does that simplify to? Positive 1. Where on my unit circle could I take my y over my x and get a positive 1 value? At pi over 4 and 5 pi over 4. Now again, which one do you choose? Well, our original point was -3, -3. Do you guys agree with me that -3, -3 would be left 3 and down 3? What quadrant are we in? What quadrant is that? 3. So what angle are they talking about? 5 pi over 4. So your point would be 3 square root of 2, comma, 5 pi over 4. Now, if they asked you, or if you were trying to find other points that would be equivalent to this, what would your R value be if you wanted to add 2 pi? If you want to try and find the same spot, what would your R value be if you were going to add one whole circle? 3 pi over 2, right? Comma whatever. If you wanted to find an equivalent spot, but you only wanted to add half a circle, what would your R value be? -3 square root of 2. And then you would add pi, add and subtract pi to that. So when they're asking you to find others, all they're asking you to do is, if you keep your R value the same, add 2 pi, check to make sure it fits within the constraints. Or if you want to change the R value, if it's positive, make it negative, or if it's negative, make it positive, then you add and subtract 1 pi. Doesn't matter that it's a square root. You're not going to do anything with it. You're just changing the sign. All right, one more, right? Okay. Okay, again, we are in what kind of form? Rectangular. What does it mean if it's rectangular? X and Y. Okay, so that means we have to find R first. Guys, pay attention. 2 root 3 squared plus -2 squared. When you square like this, where does that 2 go? Where does the squared go to? It goes to the 2 and to the square root of 3. 2 squared is 4 times, the square root of 3 times square root of 3 is just 3, plus -2 squared is 4. So this becomes 12 plus 4, which is, so what is your R value? R is 4. Now tangent, this is a little trickier. They tell me that the tangent of theta is what? -2 over 2 root 3. We'll simplify that. Let's make that a little prettier. What does this simplify to? -1 over the square root of 3? Yeah? Do we ever leave it like that? So it'd be negative square root of 3 over 3. Now we have to figure out, which ordered pair is going to give me that negative square root of 3 over 3? Well, let's think about where we are first. If I were to plot this point, 2 root 3. Do you know exactly where that is? No, but you do know it is positive, correct? And then -2. So which quadrant are we looking in? The fourth quadrant. So let's go down here. Fourth quadrant. I need my tangent to be negative square root of 3 over 3. That's what I'm looking to do. And the only thing I'm looking at is stuff in the fourth quadrant. So what else can I cross off that I know is not going to work? 7 pi over 4, because that's going to give me 1. What else is not going to work? I know for sure 2 more are not going to work. 3 pi over 2, perfect, and what else? And 0. So there's only 2 options, guys, that are going to give you negative root 3 over 3. If you're not sure what it is, just do the math. If I take this point right here, I'm going to take my y value, negative square root of 3 over 2, divided by 1/2. We keep, change, flip. Is this going to give me negative square root of 3 over 3? No, this one doesn't work either. So it's 11 pi over 6. If you want to just make quadruple sure, go ahead and say, okay, negative 1/2 times 2 over square root of 3. Yes, this is going to work, correct? So the angle I'm talking about is 11 pi over 6. So your R value was what? 4. So 4 and then 11 pi over 6. Now, if you wanted to find Other representations. What would your R value be if you wanted to add or subtract one whole circle? It would be positive 4, correct? What would your R value be if you only wanted to add or subtract 1 pi? Negative 4. Everybody with?
When we're looking for the unit circle, do we use the negative 2 pi over 2 pi over 3 or the negative square root 3 over 3? Like the simplified version?
The simplified one, yeah. Because that's not going to, if you take one of the points and put it over it, that's not going to, it won't be that. You got to simplify it first. Good question. Like we had negative 3 over 3. You won't have that, but when you simplify, you're like, oh, it's 1. All right, so you guys are going to have to do from 9-4, you have to graph and eliminate the parameter from 9-4. I'm going to give your quizzes back in a second. And then with polars, you're going to have to graph polar, find other representations, other points that are the exact same spot. You're going to have to convert from polar to rectangular and from rectangular to polar. Questions? All right, you guys good? Okay, good.